So, handgun shooting. I'll tell you what I know. I'm not an expert by any means. I've had a little bit of formal, official training for my job, and I've kind of taken what they taught me and what I've learned on my own through my own research, and um, this is what I've found to be effective. I'll tell you what I know, and basically you want to start with your form. So you're going to want to get into essentially your fighting stance. Put your dominant foot out behind you for support slightly, and then your non-dominant foot slightly forward. So you've got this bladed stance. And this is the type of stance that you would take even if you're fighting hand to hand. And I like to train in the fighting stance no matter what, and it's helpful to have the same stance no matter how you're armed, no matter what situation you're in, so that you have that instinct, that muscle memory. Get into your fighting stance, and you should have your hands up in front of you so that you can reach whatever you need, and you can also defend yourself. In your fighting stance, you can block, you can go hand to hand, you can grab whatever you need from your person, your kit. In your fighting stance, you've got your hands forward, okay? So when you draw, this is going to depend greatly upon what type of holster you're drawing from. It's going to change the mechanism. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's quite a bit different drawing from like a level 3 retention hip holster than it is drawing from like a concealed carry trigger guard cover like I have. I train with the concealed carry stuff because I feel like that's the type of handgun shooting that I'm going to be most likely to be doing. Your left hand stays up, your right hand comes down. You're going to break retention, however that is on your holster method. Break retention, level the gun. So even in this first stage of the draw, if you absolutely have to, your gun is pointed downrange and you can still fire on target. I've got this man-sized target here at 5 yards. I'm gonna demonstrate at this stage of the draw that you can still shoot and hit your target. Let's do it. Get the ear pro on. All right, so let's go through that one more time. Your left hand is forward. You've just broken retention. You are leveling the gun towards the target, and you fire. It's a hit. It's not terribly accurate, but it's an effective round on target. You're going to meet your left hand, and then you're going to punch out towards your target. Imagine, and you can do this without a gun in your hands, just getting the feel for the hand and eye coordination part of it. Take your hands, put them together with your thumbs and index finger on your right hand forward, and punch out towards something. You'll find that your hand-eye coordination will kind of instinctively point at what you're trying to point at. Humans have a natural ability to point at things. So take your hand, point at something. Your finger goes right to it. When you draw this gun, where's your finger? It's on the side, pointed towards your target. So if you can build that into your mind that you're pointing at your target, it'll make you a lot more effective. So don't get hung up on trying to line up the sights just right before you fire. At this range, it's not really going to matter that much anyway. What I try to do is combine that pointing with finding the front sight. As long as you have that front sight on target and your gun is relatively level, at this range, you're going to make hits. You're going to make effective hits. You're punching out towards your target and firing. When you're done firing, you're going to bring the gun back close to you. So you don't want to constantly be running around like this with your gun all the way out here. If you're not shooting, you want it close to your body. It's harder to take away from you. You can still shoot. You know, you still have it level, still have it pointed forward. You can still get rounds on target if you have to. It's harder to take away. Your arms aren't all the way out here where someone can grab them and, you know, point it downward or something like that. That's very important if you're in close quarters. If you're running around in a house with your arms outstretched, your gun all the way out here, and you're turning a corner, someone's on the other side of that corner, they just have to swat your hand downward. You know, if you don't have a good grip on your gun's gonna fall, or they're gonna have a hold of your arm. They're gonna be able to control where the gun is, where it's pointed. That's not good. So when you're done shooting, you wanna bring it back in here. This is position 3. So there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 method of breaking this draw down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is position 3. So you want to be in position 3 unless you're shooting and your gun's out. Punch out towards the target. Focus on your fingers pointing at what you want to shoot. Not only your index, but your thumbs as well, because you're going to have both of your thumbs pointed towards the target as well. Let's go back a little bit to the basics of handguns and shooting a handgun. The grip is the most important part of your accuracy and your control of the weapon. On a modern gun, you're going to want to get as high of a grip on the gun as possible. Okay, so you're going to want to get your web of your hand all the way at the top of the grip, so that your web is, you know, in line with the bore axis of the gun. Okay, this is good, solid one-handed grip. The other part of this, see where my thumb is, it's pretty high as well. The other part of this, bring it around to where you can see it, is bringing your left hand, your support hand, in to this grip. Both thumbs are up. The thumb on your right hand goes over the base of the thumb on your left hand. Both of your thumbs pointed forward. Your index finger is pointed forward. That's what I was talking about, where when you punch out, you've got 3 fingers pointing towards your target. And the human mind can instinctively point at something pretty well. So with 1 finger, if you're pointing at it with 3, even better, right? I guess. If you've got a poor grip, you know, like really low on the gun, you know, if there's space right here, your effectiveness is going to suffer in basically every way. So you're not going to get a very good trigger pull. Recoil is going to be more exaggerated. You can even cause a malfunction from not having a good enough grip on the gun. Some people call it limp wristing the gun. You don't want to limp wrist it and cause a malfunction. So if you're not gripping it well enough, it can not cycle properly. That's the basic of the grip and the stance, and that's arguably the most important part. So let's go through that again. So I've just got this little trigger guard clip that's on some paracord wrapped around my belt, and it just slides on to the trigger guard. This won't work if you have an accessory on the rail. So if you have a laser or a light down there, you can't use this because it would block the application of it. If you got a stock gun with no accessories on it, it's perfectly fine, and it's incredibly concealable because it's basically just like tucking a gun in your waistband, but it's safe. You're not going to shoot your dick off accidentally by bending the wrong way and pulling the trigger accidentally somehow with like your zipper or something. I don't know, but it's safe. So I'll go through that draw again and do a little bit more shooting, and you can kind of see the form that I take. There are other ways to shoot a handgun that might come in handy in less common situations. Just like the one-handed firing in position 3 or position 2 going into position 3. If you're in this situation where you got your gun out, you need to shoot before you have time to punch out towards your target, there's other situations like that where you might have to shoot one-handed. In my training, there were a few things taught, like retaining your primary weapon with your support hand, drawing the pistol and firing one-handed. That's something that might happen. You might want to prepare for it. You might think it's useless. But you could also run into a situation where your support hand is gimp, you know, you're injured or something, and you only have your right hand. Just some people driving by really slowly. I wonder if people are still trying to hunt out here right now. Pretty sure the season's over. You notice that quite a bit during hunting season. People will road hunt. They'll just kind of drive these back roads really slowly and try and spot game. Kind of seemed like what he was doing, or maybe trying to see what I was doing, which creeps me out. You can still hear his truck. Interesting. But yeah, so if you have to fire one-handed, it's the same basic principle. You're in your fighting stance, except when you do this one-handed draw, you're going to rotate your body. So you're going to bring your hand. So it's kind of like throwing a punch. So if you're in this stance and you're going to throw a punch, it's the same thing. Rotate your body, bring your fist out as far as you can, extend your arm. So it's gonna, and kind of line it up with your shoulder. It's gonna give you a little bit more stability. But punch out towards your target and watch how stable this is. So there's hardly any muzzle climb or anything. You can still control the gun pretty well. And part of this also is the angle that you hold it at. When you punch out, you don't want the gun straight up and down like with your two-handed grip. You're going to want it at a slight angle. Not a gangster grip, not straight up and down, but somewhere kind of in between. This directs the recoil a little bit more in line with your arm. You're able to take that force with your arm in this position. I think that's physics. It helps. Just don't go full gangster, because that's not going to help you. But this is certainly something you can do, and you can do it with both hands. And that's something that I was trained as well, is transitioning to your left hand. Again, you might have an injured hand, you know, your right arm, your dominant or whatever might go gimp, and you've got to switch to your other hand. When you're shooting, you can practice this where you go into this one-handed draw, and then transition. So bring your left hand up, keep it on target, bring it in here, and then just kind of switch positions with your thumbs. You bring your left hand over, grip it just like you would with your right hand, and then do the same thing, rotate your body outward, throw that punch. Transition back. Something to... And so reloads. So if you've got your mags in your gear, you know, on your belt or in a chest rig or plate carrier pouch, pants pockets, whatever. Ideally, you kind of want to stage your magazines in a way that works to naturally bring it in and reload it, so that you're not putting, you know, rounds in backwards or something like that. The way that I do it is stage them like this. So you're dropping it in, and an easy way to remember this is the bullets are pointing towards your gun. When you draw it, and you have your gun here in position 2, it's a natural movement so that the just lined up. And give it a rack. So sometimes with a Glock, just the force of giving it that tap will send the slide forward. It's just enough jostling to engage or disengage the slide lock. So didn't have to rack when I did that, but it's good to have that built into your muscle memory as well. Reload, have your magazine staged right, bring it out, tap it in, rack, all the while keeping your gun pointed towards your target so that as soon as you're ready to fire, you can if you have to. Let's do another draw with some of the one-handed and two-handed techniques, transitions. And when you're holstering your gun, a good thing to practice is putting your thumb, I don't know if you can see that, putting your thumb on the back of the slide as you're putting it in. Sometimes if your gun's really dirty or you're just unlucky, your slide might not fully be into battery, and just that little touch, bring it all the way forward so that when you go to fire, it doesn't just go click or you have a malfunction or whatever. Hands forward, fighting stance, break retention, position 2, ready to fire if we have to, position 3, we're even more ready, position 4, punching out towards the target. We've got a high grip, we've got all 3 of our fingers pointed towards the target, and now ready to fire. And some people call it a double tap. The more official term now is controlled pair, I guess. It's what I like to do. Just get 2 rounds on target and then reacquire your sight picture or whatever. Trigger pull. Trigger pull can drastically affect where your round is hitting on target. If you have a bad trigger pull, if you're jerking the trigger, or if you're letting that trigger pull move the muzzle at all, it's going to make your gun shoot not where you are aiming. To get a good clean trigger pull on this type of gun, a Glock, takes a little bit of practice because of the striker fired trigger. It's interesting. Some people describe it as mushy. It's got a lot of play in the trigger before it fires. See all that movement? Let's pop one off to demonstrate. So I've got my finger on the trigger pointed towards the target. Okay. You want to not completely wrap your trigger around it, but you want it kind of in that first knuckle so that you have solid control, but it's not so far through that it's, you know, making your grip off or gonna tug the gun around. Not the tip of your finger, but that first knuckle or somewhere around there. Look at how much play I'm still pulling. Watch. Takes all that to pull the trigger. So, and I'll bring it close to the phone so that you can hear what I'm about to talk about. When you let off the trigger a little bit, hear that? That little click? That's the trigger reset. When shooting any gun, really, but more important with something that has a long trigger pull like this, is using that trigger reset. So if you only let it forward to the point where you can hear and feel that click, just that little bit, you can pull the trigger again, and it's a much, much lighter trigger pull. So you have even more control over your gun, where that bullet goes. Retain your trigger after you fire. Let forward a little bit. Get the reset. And you can fire rapidly like this, and it's just better. It's more effective. So when you're reloading, keep your gun in your workspace in position 2, because when you're doing this, you're vulnerable. You are essentially out of the fight for a second while you're reloading. And in the stress of a shooting situation, you are going to be a lot more clumsy than just range shooting or blinking like this. So keep your gun in your workspace, hopefully generally pointed in the direction of your target still. Tap, rack, and then you're ready to go again. I want to show the target to demonstrate. So those were the shots that I just took. Don't look at these. These were when I was demonstrating the position 2 shooting. But see all these shots within the head that I just made right now? that was all point shooting. So I wasn't lining up the sights. I wasn't taking time to really aim. I was using my fingers, using that hand-eye coordination, punching out towards what I wanted to shoot, and all of them hit what I wanted them to. You know, this is a pretty short range to be shooting from. You know, I was only about here, so that's 5-7 yards, something like that. But if you're watching this in your house and you look around you, there's not much in your average room that's further away than this. This is the distances that you're most likely going to be using this type of gun. So if you can be this effective at this range, that quick, not even needing to look at the sights, it's good. So you build in that hand-eye coordination, that muscle memory, the reflexive pointing shooting, you can be pretty effective. So all those headshots, just ba-bam, ba-bam, ba-bam. If you can master all of that, you can be a pretty good handgun shooter at a base level. You can be effective enough to get shit done. Something that I do that I didn't think about mentioning until now, it's something I do when I'm out shooting alone, is I'll keep the extendo magazine in here in my rig. It looks kind of goofy, but it makes me feel better knowing that I have like 2.5 magazines worth of ammo, defensive ammo, loaded and ready to go if necessary. just makes me feel better, because you don't want to shoot off all of your practice ammo and then you got nothing left to shoot with. So I keep the 33 rounder loaded with hollow points just on standby.